Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. John Seda reveals whether he would consider returning to Chicago PD. John Seda is TV royalty. The actor has been a staple in procedural dramas for over 2 decades, but one Chicago fans will always know him and love him as Antonio Dawson. Seda played the character for 6 seasons on Chicago PD, and helped expand the franchise by spearheading the lone season of Chicago Justice. Seda currently stars in Into the Deep, a pulse-pounding action thriller. The actor plays a villain opposite Scout Taylor Compton and Stuart Townsend, which is fun flip on the gritty but noble Dawson on PD. We were lucky enough to discuss Into the Deep with Seda, and we also got the lowdown on whether the actor would ever consider returning to the One Chicago franchise. Seda confirmed he would be more than happy to make a return to Chicago PD, given that his character is alive and presumably well. Antonio is still alive, he explained. If they called me and said, "Hey, we'd love to talk about you coming in for even just 1 scene or 2 or whatever," I totally would be down with it. The actor noted that there are currently no plans in place to bring Dawson back. He also, notably, spoke to the way in which shows change over time, in terms of tone and cast. TV shows, they evolve, they change for whatever reason and things happen, he noted. He has a point. It's been a long time since PD fans got to see Dawson, and in that time, several other characters have departed. The IU may still be headed up by Hank Voight, Jason Begg, but it looks a lot different than it did just a few short seasons ago. Seda is happy with his tenure on One Chicago. His condition for returning is simple, but crucial. It would have to make sense for the character. If it made sense and they wanted to bring Antonio back, I'm down for it, he asserted. He might be a little older, but it'd be fine to bring him back. Those who want their Seda fix in the meantime, though, absolutely check out his performance in Into the Deep. The actor is absolutely riveting as a modern-day pirate who runs afoul of vicious sharks and a spirited marine biologist. There's plenty of action and thrills, but the thing that ultimately drew Seda to the film is what he ultimately hopes the viewer takes away from it. There's plenty of shark movies, he conceded. But I think that is the bottom line message, or a strong message that tried to show in this movie, is that you can overcome your fears. Into the Deep is currently in theaters. In an exclusive interview with TV insider John Seda, known for his portrayal of Detective Antonio Dawson on Chicago PD, candidly reveals whether he would consider returning to the Windy City hit drama. Fans have been clamoring for a reunion with the beloved character since Seda left the series in 2017, and many have speculated about a potential comeback. So would the actor revisit his role? Well, according to Seda, it's not as clear-cut as one might think. When asked directly about returning to the show, Seda smiled, his eyes twinkling with that familiar mix of charm and curiosity. "You know, in this business, you never say never," he admitted. "There's always a possibility, but it's a complicated answer. When I left, it was a decision that made sense at the time, but I have always loved the character of Antonio Dawson. He's a part of me, and I think he's a part of the fans' hearts too." Seda, who was a fan favorite for his portrayal of the hard-nosed yet empathetic detective, spent 5 seasons on Chicago PD before his departure to explore other projects. His character, Antonio, went through a remarkable evolution, from a cop with a strong moral compass to a man dealing with personal struggles, including a battle with addiction. His departure from the show was heartbreaking for fans, as it marked the end of one of the most nuanced and multidimensional characters on the series. "When I left the show, it wasn't because I didn't enjoy being a part of the Chicago PD family," Seda reflects. "The decision was more about wanting to explore different types of roles, challenge myself as an actor, and take on new projects that offered growth. It was a personal decision, but it didn't come without its challenges." Seda had previously made a brief return to the One Chicago universe when Antonio Dawson made a guest appearance on Chicago Med, where he rekindled his connection with the characters from the original series. The reunion was warmly received, and fans began to wonder if this might signal a permanent return to the franchise. Seda, however, is careful not to raise false hopes. "Sometimes when people leave a show, the door gets left open, but that doesn't mean the door is going to be walked through," Seda explains. "I love the cast, and I think the show has done an incredible job of evolving. But Antonio's story arc was wrapped up in a way that felt complete. That said, I wouldn't rule out coming back if the right story presented itself. There are always opportunities in the world of television, but what would it take for Seda to reconsider his stance on returning as Antonio Dawson? The actor is clear. It's all about the story. The most important thing for me is that the story makes sense, he says. If there's a compelling reason for Antonio to come back into the fold, if there's something exciting for the audience and for me as an actor, I'd definitely consider it. But I want to make sure that any return feels earned. Antonio deserves a good story. Since leaving Chicago PD, Seda has worked on a variety of projects. He starred in the NBC drama Shades of Blue alongside Jennifer Lopez and Ray Liotta, played a recurring role on The Path, and appeared in numerous other television shows and films. Still, there remains a part of Seda that's tied to Antonio Dawson. There's a piece of me that will always be Antonio, Seda admits. That character was so important to me. He was flawed but resilient, and he dealt with issues that a lot of people could relate to. I'm proud of the work I did with him and the way his story was told on Chicago PD. That said, I'm also proud of what I've been able to do since then. Despite this pride in his post-Chicago PD career, Seda still holds a deep affection for the role of Antonio. There's something special about the world of Chicago PD, he notes. When you're in that world, you become a part of something much bigger. The fans, the cast, the crew, it's a family. I miss that aspect of it. But there's also a lot of respect for the fact that the show has moved on and done incredibly well without me. Seda's connection with the Chicago PD family extends beyond the set. He talks fondly about his co-stars, especially Jesse Lee Soffer, who portrayed Detective Jay Halstead and was a close friend of Antonio's on-screen. Jesse and I still keep in touch. We've both grown as actors and people since the show, but we always support each other. It's that camaraderie that I miss the most, being part of a team. That's something special. While Seda is diplomatic about returning to the role, he acknowledges that fans are a huge part of the equation. The fans have been so supportive, and their passion for the show and for Antonio in particular has been overwhelming. I'll always be grateful for that. If the fans really wanted to see Antonio come back, that might be a compelling reason to take another look at it. But again, it has to make sense for the story. As Chicago PD continues its success, with the characters evolving and facing new challenges, Seda remains supportive of the show's direction. The writers and producers have done an incredible job of keeping the series fresh and exciting. I have nothing but respect for them, he says. But the world of Chicago PD is always changing. It would be interesting to see where Antonio could fit into the story today, but that's a question for the writers, not me. As for what's next for John Seda, he remains focused on his current projects but doesn't rule out a return to his Chicago PD roots. There are so many exciting things on the horizon, but I will always have a soft spot for Antonio. Who knows? Maybe one day there will be an opportunity to revisit him. If not, I'm at peace with that too. As the interview wraps up, Seda's smile never fades. You just never know in this business. The best stories are the ones you don't see coming. For now, fans of Antonio Dawson will have to continue to hold on to the hope that one day, the detective might return to the Chicago PD fold. Until then, Seda remains grateful for his time on the show and the lasting impact the role has had on both him and his audience.